Tonight, more witnesses take the stand at the trial of self-declared serial killer Jeremy Skibicki.
That way we have a backstop for negotiation, because there are some bands right now that are not willing to negotiate anything.
A Senate committee hears that a lucrative market has more Mi'kmaq fishing for Elvers without a license.
I never thought I'd be an avid meditator. I certainly never thought I'd become an abstract artist.
And we hear from Eileen Marlowe about her new book on self-care. Good evening and welcome to APTN National News on this Friday evening. I'm Sav Jones. More coverage tonight of the trial of a self-proclaimed serial killer, where a judge has to decide if Jeremy Skibicki is not criminally responsible because of mental illness. Skibicki admitted in court that he killed Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and Buffalo Woman. Today, the Crown called a Winnipeg police forensic officer and a pathologist to the stand. Beware, there are disturbing details in this report. Here's T.R. Wheatley.
The day started with details about how the Winnipeg police ended up searching the city's Brady landfill back in the spring of 2022 for the partial remains of Rebecca Contois. During testimony from an identification unit officer, some of her family members began crying and they had to leave the courtroom. Contois' torso was found on the south side of the Brady landfill roughly 2 weeks into the search on June 14, 2022. Constable Brian Newman testified the search at the landfill happened after Contois' other remains were found in a garbage bin in a back alley near Skibicki's apartment. The judge heard that video surveillance of Skibicki dumping garbage bags in bins, along with the GPS of the dump truck, helped investigators determine where the contents of the bins ended up. Newman said by the time they began their work at Brady, police learned an extra 40 feet of garbage had been piled on the 3-acre area they were searching. Newman said he was the search supervisor and remembers telling his team to look for something, quote, the size of a small suitcase. Another reveal by Newman: in late June 2022, police came here, a block away from Skibicki's apartment, to search the commercial garbage bin between these two businesses. Police saw additional video of Skibicki dumping more garbage bins. It was then that court heard this is where the remains of both Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron lay for nearly 2 weeks. On May 3rd, police said Skibicki disposed of Harris and came back with Myron on May 6th. It wasn't until May 16, a day before Contois' remains were found, that a dump truck from the privately owned Prairie Green landfill picked up contents from the commercial bin. However, there wasn't any GPS, so Winnipeg police couldn't determine exactly where the contents could have ended up in Prairie Green. The other witness to take the stand was pathologist Raymond Rivera. He examined Contois' remains. He confirmed that she died from being choked and smothered. Defense did not cross-examine either witness. All week, those on the stand were called by the Crown, who have been trying to prove Skibicki was intentional and racially motivated when he killed all 4 women. Earlier this week, 3.5 hours of video of Skibicki's interrogation was shown in court. After it played, defense told the judge Skibicki had later told investigators he suffers from borderline personality disorder and PTSD. His defense are claiming he is not criminally responsible on account of mental disorder. Court will continue next week with more Crown witnesses, including another police officer who will talk more about the video surveillance evidence in this case. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
For more on this trial, please head over to aptnnews.ca for stories by our web reporter, Kathleen Martins. And if you are triggered by this report, supports are available 24/7 through the MMIWG2S support line. That number is 1-844-413-6649. And a Senate committee is studying the issue of the Elver fishery in the Maritimes. It's a lucrative business. Elvers, or baby eels, can fetch $5,000 a kilogram. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans shut down the fishery in March. DFO Minister Diane Laboutier cited a need for conservation and the rise in violence related to illegal harvesting as reasons for the closure. Commercial eel harvesters were witnesses at the Senate Committee on Fisheries and Oceans. Brian Giroux is the president of Shelburne Elver. He said in 2 years, his tax-paying fishery lost $1 million. He said there's an increasing number of First Nations groups fishing without licenses and suggests better enforcement and stricter regulations for First Nations.
That way we have a backstop for negotiation, because there are some bands right now that are not willing to negotiate anything. They have a right to do whatever they want, and they feel they will go and do whatever they want without reporting catches, without paying attention to conservation rules, fishing right against fish ladders and dams and you name it, breaking every conservation rule in the book, and that's not right.
And this past March, 2 Mi'kmaq men allegedly harvested baby eels, known as Elvers, despite a federal ban on doing so. Department of Fisheries and Oceans officers detained them and eventually left them at a gas station in the middle of the night, but not before they confiscated their shoes and cell phones. Both Senator Paul Prosper and Liberal MP Jamie Baptiste want an independent Mi'kmaq-led investigation into the incident. Kevin Hartling and Blaze Sillyboy are seen here at a rally in early April. Their supporters were demonstrating against the treatment of 2 men by DFO officers. Hartling and Sillyboy claim to have walked for hours without proper footwear. APTN caught up with Minister Laboutier before a fisheries committee this week and asked her if the officers involved in the incident have been suspended.
Bien, écoutez, ce que je peux vous dire, c'est que je l'ai dit depuis le début, c'est inacceptable d'avoir laissé des gens dans la situation où ça s'est passé. Il y a du travail qui a été fait de ma part. J'ai rencontré des chefs autochtones, j'ai rencontré des sénateurs et on va travailler ensemble avec les communautés autochtones à mettre un comité en place pour pouvoir vraiment avoir de meilleures façons de travailler pour les gens du ministère des Pêches et Océans.
The Métis Nation of Saskatchewan has officially broken ground on a childcare center. The center will provide children with Métis culture, language, and teachings in a safe environment. Video journalist Rachel May was at the official ground blessing.
Because all the things that we're doing here benefits everyone, not only Métis, First Nations, and non-Indigenous people. Everyone benefits.
Métis Nation Saskatchewan President Glenn McCallum spoke at the official site of a new Métis childcare facility. MNS officially broke ground on the new Early Learning Childcare Métis Centre of Excellence yesterday afternoon in Saskatoon. Vice President Michelle Leclerc says this centre is a big step to ensure Métis children are given the opportunity to learn their culture.
Opening daycare centres to revitalize language, culture, have our children in a safe space, and allowing our families to have affordable daycare.
Not only will the center provide space for 90 children, but also 29 full-time jobs, and 4 part-time jobs will be created. Kathy Pruden-Nansel represents MNS members in Saskatoon. She says the new facility will be the first urban Métis childcare center in Saskatchewan.
Our kids are going to be in a Métis cultural environment, hear their language, see their cultural symbols, be around their elders. Those are all things, unfortunately, many of our family members were deprived of.
The center is set to open in the fall of 2025. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
We want to hear what you think about Indigenous-led childcare options. Here's how to continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We need to step aside now for a moment, but first, one woman's 40-year career in Métis beadwork is being recognized.
There's something about beadwork and something about doing beadwork that just brings you back to who you are and to be proud of who you are.
Welcome back. Métis artist Janine Crouchy recently won the Manitoba Arts Council Award of Distinction. Our reporter Sierra Bedden sat down with Crouchy to discuss her work and legacy.
There's something about beadwork and something about doing beadwork that just brings you back to who you are and to be proud of who you are.
For over 40 years, Janine Crouchy has dedicated her life to sharing the art of Métis beadwork with the world. This week, the Manitoba Arts Council honored Crouchy with their 2024 Award of Distinction. The $30,000 prize is given annually to an artist who embodies both artistic excellence and community service. Audrey Dwyer, the director of granting, said Crouchy was a perfect candidate.
When it comes to the Manitoba Arts Council, we want to award someone who not only exceeds artistic excellence, but also contributes to the development of art in Manitoba, which is something that Janine also does.
Crouchy, a Red River Métis woman, learned to bead from her mother, Jenny Meyer. To date, Crouchy's work has been displayed at the Winnipeg Art Gallery, Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and on 2 Royal Canadian Mint collector's coins. However, in Canadian institutions, beadwork wasn't always celebrated.
Our beadwork was kept in drawers at museums, and every once in a while somebody'd be interested and pull that drawer out and have a look.
But Crouchy says there's been a surge of interest in beadwork, and more young people are eager to learn it. For Crouchy, beadwork is a collaborative medium. As she watches the new generation of beadworkers flourish, she dedicates the award to them and the women that paved the way.
The women that came before us that did this beautiful work, and they never got the recognition for it. So in a lot of ways, I dedicate this award to them, because without them, I wouldn't be doing what I do now.
Next week, Crouchy's work will be featured at the Radical Stitch exhibition at the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa. Sierra Bedden's APTN National News, Winnipeg.
In a busy world, it's not easy to prioritize self-care, but it's exactly what one Chippewa artist in Yellowknife wants you to do. Our reporter, Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, brings us this story about silent healing through meditation and art.
This is Medicine Power.
Eileen Marlowe thanks meditation for her creative expression on canvas. The Chippewa Dene artist aligns herself spiritually, asking for guidance every day.
I may be thinking about a particular thing or issue or situation, and with that in mind, I will paint and look to transforming that particular issue or thing that I'm dealing with that I would like to see transformed. And I find painting abstractly and with different textures and colors, I honestly feel that it does something to me inside, that it makes some sort of shift inside me. The call to connect with spirit.
She is sharing her journey of self-discovery in print.
Personal medicine power. The second message from the black bug was to let me know that as individuals, we have unknowingly given our personal medicine powers away. This is also
the book deconstructs colonial practices of being and knowing.
We were not taught to think from our heart space. We were taught to think from our head, and the type of thinking that comes out of us is divide, conquer, compete, and control type of mentalities. And it's ingrained in every single one of us.
As a go-getter in the professional world, Marlowe admits she too was caught up in the rat race. But during the COVID-19 pandemic, she took up meditating, and unbeknownst to her at the time, a whole new life.
I learned that there's something inside me, inside my heart, that exists for my highest good. And I've also learned that it's this place here that has actually changed my life, really, actually. I never thought I'd be an avid meditator. I certainly never thought I'd become an abstract artist.
The book encourages creativity, especially in the North, which lacks institutional wellness spaces. She says art has the ability to put a person through silent healing.
Healing can take place right in your living room or in your kitchen, wherever you have your stuff set up. And there's a lot of really beautiful feelings associated with painting and art. And yes, it does have the potential to stir up some uncomfortable things and feelings inside of you. But that's the beauty of art.
The Call to Connect with Spirit is currently being printed for distribution, and Marlowe anticipates an in-person launch in the future. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
We need to take one last break, but stick around. More news is on its way. Welcome back. Time now for a photo of the day. Orange skies over Toronto, Ontario. Beautiful sunset photos shared by Marilee Brand. Whether you snap a pretty picture while outside on a walk, or maybe you want to show off your latest art creation or a delicious meal you made, we want to see it. Email your pictures to share@aptn.ca to be featured as our photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. It'll be 4 in clouds in St. John's, 11 in Charlottetown, 12 and sun in Cartwright, 8 and sun in Nain. Quebec City is 17 and Val-d'Or is 17 as well. Toronto is 14 in rain and 15 in North Bay. Thunder Bay is 17 and Timmins is also 17. Churchill is 8 and rain and some sun and 20 in the Pas. Winnipeg will be 27, Barons River 19. Regina will be 26 in sun and 22 in sun in North Battleford. Stony Rapids will be 9 and Buffalo Narrows will be a sunny 16. Sun and 19 in Fort McMurray, sun and 18 in High Level. Edmonton will be 21, as will Red Deer. Vancouver is 19 and sun and 30 and sun in Kamloops. Fort Nelson will be 18 and Prince George will be 22. Watson Lake is 13 and Old Crow is 6. Yellowknife will be 7 and 17 in Fort Simpson. Sax Harbor will be 19.3 in snow and +1 in Colville Lake. Chesterfield is -10 in snow and -10 but sun in Cambridge Bay. Calumet will be +1 and Resolute -11. The Manwin Hotel on Winnipeg's Main Street Strip has become a hub for drugs and violence in the city. But with a lack of housing, it has also become a last resort for the city's vulnerable population. Tonight on our new episode of APTN Investigates, video journalist Tamara Pimentel takes us behind the doors of the Manwin and speaks with the most affected people. With more on the story, Tamara joins us now in our Winnipeg studio. Thanks so much for joining us today, Tamara. How did you come across this story?
So back in October, when I was a reporter with APTN National News, I covered the initial protest that happened outside the Manwin to have the hotel shut down. And during that time, reporters were very quickly brought through the hotel, so I got to see just how bad the conditions were. Seeing some of the rooms that people were living in and washrooms without any doors, it was pretty horrific. And working for news, you only have about 2 minutes to tell a story. So a few months later, I saw Barb Guimond and Vivian Ketchum have been going back to the hotel just to keep tabs on the conditions and the people living there. So I reached out to them, and it gave me the opportunity to do this as an investigates piece and tell this story on a larger scale.
How is this hotel impacting Indigenous people in Winnipeg?
So this hotel is really a last resort for people who would otherwise be unhoused, and Indigenous people make up almost 70% of Winnipeg's unhoused community. So we spoke with an Indigenous person that lives in the hotel, and we also spoke with the family of an Indigenous man who actually died while living in the hotel a year ago. So really getting down to what these people have gone through and what led to them living in this hotel. And we found that for many, those issues stemmed from what they were going through in their communities back home on the reserve.
Okay, and has the province or city responded to the calls to close the hotel?
So the hotel's still open. We have not heard from the city about it, but we do hear from the province in this episode. And the province, keep in mind that the tenants get their rent money from the province through EIA. So the province does talk to us about inspections that have been done at the hotel and whether or not the hotel owner had complied to renovation orders. And we also hear from the Minister of Housing about what tenants can do to bring these issues to the province to see if anything can be done that way. But really, this hotel is a last resort, so if anything happens where this hotel does get shut down, a lot of these people might not have anywhere else to go.
Wow, well, I'm really looking forward to watching this episode, and thank you so much for chatting with us and telling us about it today.
Thanks for having me.
You can catch APTN Investigates Beyond the Strip a few minutes from now, immediately following the APTN National News. And a lifelong advocate for Indigenous rights and education has passed away this week. Grandmother Pauline Rose Shirt, also known as Thunder Woman, passed away on Tuesday at the age of 80 years old. Elder Shirt is from the Saddle Lake Cree Nation in Alberta, but called Toronto home for many years. Her community work and activism spans more than 4 decades. In 1974, she helped organize the Native People's Caravan to Parliament Hill with her late husband, Fern Harper. The caravan was part of the Red Power movement that swept North America, uniting grassroots people in a common cause. In 1976, she and her husband founded Canada's first school for Indigenous students, called the Wandering Spirit School in Toronto. She also founded the first Indigenous holistic wellness clinic, called Red Willow, in 1984. During her later years, she served as a knowledge keeper around Toronto and was a recent recipient of the Order of Ontario.
I especially loved her presence and hearing her speak, her humor, her confidence, her strong presence. She had some authority, and she really knew how to hold a room, make a room laugh, and very generous to people.
Grandma Pauline will be laid to rest this weekend in Scarborough, Ontario. Well, folks, another episode of APTN National News has come to an end on this Friday evening. For more of our stories, please check out aptnnews.ca. You can also tune in to our new daytime newscast during the weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central on APTN. I'm Sav Jonesa, and from all of us here at APTN, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great weekend.